record on this computer. So I think it's recording real time now. Uh, so, all right, let's go ahead and get started. This is Med Instead of Meds, Introduction to the Med Way. Um, what this really encompasses is teaching folks the Mediterranean eating style of just pretty much the ancient Mediterranean region from long ago. So we want to see folks start to implement some of those eating patterns, such as lean proteins instead of fatty proteins. If we do look at our fats, look at what we're what we're taking into our bodies. Is it saturated fat or is it unsaturated fat? So they use a lot of olive oils. They ate a lot of fish with those omega-3s. Today, a lot of folks champion salmon. Tuna can be a good one, but we'll get to some things like that. And this is a 6-session series, so I'll be doing it every Tuesday at 2 p.m. for 6 weeks. And it'll always be recorded just in case you can't make it. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. And if I did not introduce myself, my name is Vincent Webb. I'm with North Carolina Cooperative Extension. I am one of the Family Consumer Sciences agents here at the Extension office. Right now, I'm not at the Extension office. I am at home, but without further ado, let's go ahead and roll right in. Okay, so you see a 2/3 on your screen. This 2/3 is pretty much talking about chronic disease and how 2/3 of chronic diseases can actually be prevented by lifestyle changes, specifically diet and exercise. I can attest to that. As far as about 3 or 4 years ago, my mother had a stroke, and she started implement some of these lifestyle changes that I was kind of preaching over the years as I was in the nutrition program at UNCG. And she said, "Hey, all those times you tried to tell me, you were right." She began to see her pressure go down, not just from the medicine, but also from her diet changes. She began to see more functionality in her limbs as she began to do the exercises that they recommended for her. So I began to see this real time, and of course, amongst friends and myself. I know when I eat better, I feel better as well. So why do people feel stuck today? I know that today, as far as being stuck, folks are stuck at home. I actually wrote an article last week about folks overeating because they're at home. Sometimes we can go and just snack and eat all day and not really pay attention to what we're eating. We're going to get into that too later on in the series about people feeling stuck in that area. But why do people think that just simply eating healthy is hard? Some folks think it's too confusing. Some folks think it's too expensive, and it's not delicious. Some folks say, "I don't have time. I really don't have time." Well, I say this. I'm always preaching this. People do what they want to do. So if you feel like it's important that your health thrives and that you have a healthy body and that you steward your body well, then you will do these things. You will find a way. You will make a way. And that's just the simple point. I know that's hard for some folks to hear, but the simple matter is that you do what you want to do. If it's too hard, reach out to a friend. We're here to do these series so that we can show you how to implement some of these lifestyle changes so it won't be hard. We're here to clear up some of that nutrition jargon so that it won't be confusing. And we're here to show you different ways that you can shop, different ways that you can acquire healthy foods and it not be expensive. One of my favorites right now is not as accessible, but the farmer's market when everything is in season. You can shop pretty well with some items for your family, a lot of items really for your families. And delicious, oh no, let's get over that. We can make healthy food delicious. Just ask my roommates. So we notice in this society that culinary literacy is at an all-time low. I discovered this in college, that some of my friends didn't even know how to make the basic things. They couldn't even make things such simple as rice. They had to rely, what if you don't have a rice cooker? What if you just have a pan? What if you just have a pot? Just knowing the basics of cooking. Now, unfortunately, we're kind of bound by location, but I may figure out a way that we can actually do a cooking video and maybe share that with you and stuff like that. Just got to be a little bit more innovative. But the cooking literacy is at an all-time low, specifically in this country, in America. So we want to be here. This is where we want to be. You might see some of your favorite fruits up here or vegetables. I know I love my green leafies, my collards, my mustard greens, my cabbage, my spinach, my arugula, things like that. I also love my tomatoes and peppers, and I see front and center an avocado, just rendering those healthy fats with that avocado. And then I see my little pineapple, or big pineapple rather, in the back. So this is where we want to be. We know that this is where the antioxidants live. We know that this is where the vitamins and minerals live. We know that this right here is where the magic is. Berries, strawberries, blackberries, blueberries. I know that blackberries personally are one of my favorites. Bursting with juicy goodness, just sweet enough to give you the fix of sweetness that you would like, but also rich in antioxidants. Let's keep going. Oh, there are my green leafies, like we said before. And a lot of these guys, you can blanch and freeze. So if you do buy in bulk, you do catch that sale at the farmer's market, you can go ahead and blanch and freeze those. And that's just a simple boil, snatching it out depending on the hardness of the vegetable, and maybe 2 to 3 minutes depending on how hard it is. And then you bring it out, shock it with the cold water, and seal it up in a freezer bag. Beans and legumes. I grew up on pintos. Now, we didn't use pintos in the right way. We had all sorts of fatty biscuits and pork meat in there, but I had to learn how to incorporate healthier fats. I had to learn how to use beans in conjunction with rice in order to make that complete protein. And here we go, speaking of protein, complete proteins here. We have our seafood, our lean cuts of chicken. And then I love the way this picture demonstrates the herb and also the aromatics on the side. You have a shallot and a bulb of garlic there, as well as the citrus for flavor. So I like that. This right here, instead of what you see on the right side of your screen, if it's not mirrored, we don't want to do that. We want to live with the pans. We want to live here, all right, instead of here with the pills. That's what we want to do. We want to do, like we say with cars, preventative maintenance. I know I spend Sundays, whenever I know things are coming up with my car that are due, and I know I can go ahead and knock them out, I just go ahead and pop the hood, lift the car, and do it. The same way with our bodies. We know that our bodies require certain things, and we also know through evidence and research that these fruits, vegetables, these whole grains, these food items actually provide what our body needs instead of having to go here. So if we do preventative maintenance, we don't have to go to the pills. So eating the Medway, what do we want to look at when we are eating the Medway? So let's look at our Medway wheel. Those fruits and vegetables, all sorts of colors. Whole grains, and you see corn peeking out back there. It is technically a whole grain. Beans and legumes, lean cuts of animal products such as the salmon there, or we could just subtitle or put an overall title of fish. Nuts and seeds, In my oatmeal, in my yogurt, even in my sautés. I love it. All right, olive oil, healthy oils and fats, uh, spices and herbs. That's one that when I learned, I try to pass down to my family so that they could learn how to season with spices and herbs and use salt as a flavor enhancer at the end. All right, wine is to each his own. It does have the antioxidant properties. And physical activity, y'all. Physical activity. Getting out, walking. Now you are at home. You may be sitting. Sometimes use that excuse when the dog whines and wants to go out. You go out with them. Go ahead and take yourself a walk. Walk around the neighborhood with the kids. Get you a few steps in a day. If you have some natural, I know for me, now I know that I don't have a lot of demands and responsibilities as some. So I go out in the evenings and we have a hill outside of our apartment complex. And I do some hills and things like that just to get my little exercise in, whatever it takes, whatever you need to do. Community, family, friends, relationships. I know that this is hard to do in the midst of COVID-19, but simply while you have your family there, being able to sit down because a lot of us are in close proximity with our family members all day. Just being able to sit down with them and talk. What are they feeling? What are they thinking about our current circumstances? And we want to limit those sugary beverages. I know that that's a guilty pleasure of some. So where does the Medway stand on these superfoods? We are going to find out as we go through this series, all right? Where does the Medway stand on limiting these foods? We will find out as we go through this series. Eating the Medway is not about a flavor profile. There are many flavor profiles. If you go to our med instead of meds.com, you'll see that there are many flavor profiles in our recipe repertoire. So it's really not about the flavor profile. We can make it taste any way we want with the types of herbs and spices that we use. However, we are talking about the region and specifically going back to those ancient times, how they ate. So we can have a more of an Indian style flavor profile. We can have a more Mexican flavor profile. We could also just have plain delicious, all right? Now that's one of my favorites. That's our strawberry quinoa salad. And that mango salsa is to die for, So typical Italian or Greek dishes are not always consistent with eating the Medway. Now, these are regions that are typically known as ancient Mediterranean regions. They have kind of evolved a little bit as far as the types of dishes that they cook. And we know, even if we go to those countries today, that this right here does not look like what's over there, all right? And the portions are definitely not as big. You go to a lot of the restaurants out here that do the Italian or Greek style dishes, the portions are very big, such as bottom left here of the screen. High in meat, white flour and meat, white flour and cheese. So just a lot of refined grains, a lot of high fat meats, and of course cheese always contains saturated fat. A lot of times we as Americans, cheese is not just a compliment or just a little, what did I call it? Sometimes just a sprinkle or an accent. A lot of times that's the main meal. And we need to kind of scale that back. This is not what we are talking about either. We're not talking about something that just has one of those hinge words, olive oil. So you can't just have olive oil on a package and just assume, oh, that's healthy for me. We're gonna get into some label reading later on. So what we want to teach folks is to cook and eat real food. This is what we're trying to bring out in our recipes. Once you visit our website, you look at our recipes. We have about 75 to 100 recipes that you can choose from. And all of these, we try to make them as simple as possible. And if you don't have any ingredients, the joy of cooking is to experiment, to try new things, to substitute. And some of our, and not some, but in a lot of our recipes, it tells you what you can substitute. And then some of you are avid cooks already. You know what to do. It's just a matter of doing it. So don't get hung up on the magical ingredients, as I said before, just because it has olive oil. We see sea salt, things like that. Don't get hung up on that. And we all know where this is from right here, that good old Big Mac there. So it's definitely a marketing ploy by others. They assume you throw a little this, throw a little that. Oh, it's healthy now. No. We have to get to know our food. Okay. The magic is here, as I said before. Whole foods. That's what we want to do. And it takes a little bit of planning, everybody. It takes a little bit of planning, a little bit of strategizing. So these are two pyramids that we've actually used in conjunction with Standard My Plate. That's just a simple outline or a guideline. What I love about Old Ways is that it actually has pyramids that are related to your ethnicity or your heritage, more so your ethnicity. And it shows you just what, your particular ethnicity is predisposed to. And it actually gives you a guideline to how to best eat for your genes. And also we have the ECU School of Medicine, and its pyramid actually has physical activity and community supporting, because we know that our culture, the way we eat meals, the way we prepare meals together, the things that we do centered around meals, we know that's a driver of how we eat, what we eat. And then it shows you what you should be eating and the quantity as you go up. And it does include wine as well as the Old Ways does too. This is another edition of what we see with the USDA My Plate, but this one is from Harvard. And we like it because it actually really goes deep into proportions, especially when you get to vegetables and fruits. Knowing that fruits, although they contain natural sugar, they still contain sugar and stuff like that. And just knowing that vegetables is really going to be that sweet spot in taking slightly more vegetables than fruits. And then it also displays the healthy oils and water, opposed to milk being displayed on the traditional My Plate model. This one actually displays water. Nothing can beat water. After being a wrestling athlete in my high school years, I could say with having to make a particular weight class, when I stepped off that scale, nothing else was satisfied for water. Soda, no. Even Gatorade, no. Water was sufficient or more sufficient. And then it talks about the healthy protein and the whole grains. The DASH diet, the original DASH was lower in fat than the Medway. The new DASH is closer, but still not as high in healthy fat to what the Medway recommends. And if you look at the dietary guidelines for Americans, getting at the end of that 5 years, the 8th edition, you'll see that it actually puts in some eating patterns and eating habits that closely reflect the Mediterranean style pattern. And if you are a nutrition nut and you really like, or you a foodie, just a general foodie, sometimes you'll see the things come across your email or your Google, because the Google, when we search things, Google tends to get to know us better than we know ourselves sometimes. That's unfortunate. And you see, oh, this Mediterranean article. Now you have to be careful where your sources are from, but some articles are linked to actual university studies. And everybody is starting to do a study on this Mediterranean eating pattern. And you get a chance to see some of that evidence-based, research-based information being released to you. So why eat the Med way? Eating the Med way decreases the risk of some forms of cancer. Eating the Med way is better than a low-fat diet for weight loss. Better than a low-fat diet for weight loss in overweight and obese individuals specifically. Higher fat Med diet up to 42% total fat did not, they found that it did not increase weight. And this whole curriculum actually has an underlying study between NC State Extension and ECU School of Medicine. So that's why you saw ECU School of Medicine pyramid as well. And they were finding some of these things as they researched and built up the evidence around this curriculum. Nearly 9 out of 10 people are worried about consuming fat. Now, we do need to be concerned about what type of fats that we're consuming. Is it saturated fat or is it unsaturated fat? Are we getting those omega-3s, which stand as antioxidants? We all know that antioxidants kind of combats those free radicals that attack our cells, so they stand as a protectant for the cell. So in a certain degree, we should be concerned, but we should not be worried about fat and its whether we're taking in too much as far as the healthy fat goes, but rather just watching our proportions and what we're taking in as far as unsaturated versus saturated. We must actually abandon the notion that low fat leads to less weight gain. We know that calories, now, if we're talking from a caloric standpoint, fat tends to be higher in calories, but lower fat diets do not mean less weight gain, because oftentimes we see them put other things in substitution. So they might add more sugar when an item is low fat, and sugar has calories. So we know that per gram is 4 kilocalories. So as far as carbohydrates go, and we know that sugar is some carbohydrate at its basic level. So do not be fooled when something says low fat. Midway protects against cognitive decline by protecting the small blood vessels in the brain. All right. Lower risk of developing Alzheimer's when you go mid. Improvement of eye health, including decreasing the risk of macular degeneration. So you're getting those vitamins and minerals. You're getting those antioxidants. You're getting what you need for your body to operate healthily. So we talked about the mind. We've talked, or the brain rather. We've talked about your eyes. We talked about cancer, which is essentially mutation of the cells, and how those antioxidants actually from these fruits and vegetables and these vitamins that are high in nutrients, these antioxidants actually protect the cell. The Medway decreases the risk of type 2 diabetes specifically. Type 2 is the one that you acquire. And we know that type 1 is autoimmune, like that's the one a lot of time folks are born with them, or what we call childhood diabetes. But type 2 here specifically. Eating the Medway is better than a low-fat diet for diabetes. We know that fiber not only stands as a heart protector, and fiber not only regulates your digestive system and make sure that's healthy, but it also allows, because oftentimes it is, and we do find our grain products to be full of fiber. Those whole grains tend to be more fibrous. Therefore, that sugar that's converted from those complex carbohydrates can actually be slowly released into the blood instead of hitting you fast like a candy bar and then dropping you fast as well. And then a lot of our fruits and vegetables, they actually have those fibrous elements that allow that slow release into the bloodstream. Eating the meal way can help manage your blood pressure, which we know high blood pressure can actually lead to the stroke or the heart attack. We want to use those spices and herbs in order to flavor our food instead of just going to what for some folks, especially in the South, call their bread and butter, salt and pepper. Pepper, to each his own. We like that little bit of spice, but adding salt in certain steps of cooking is unnecessary. We know there are times with baked goods, baked items, there are certain times when we do have to follow the recipe and add the salt that is required. But some of us we go overboard, and we have to change our palate. And this don't happen overnight. This is a step-by-step process. The meal way can reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease as much as 30 to 60%. And a lot of these diseases and disorders are tied together. So you see, we went from diabetes. A lot of times folks who have diabetes already predisposed to having high blood pressure or vice versa, all right? And then we know that those two things that we just mentioned, diabetes and high blood pressure, can actually point to or lead to cardiovascular disease. So a lot of this stuff is connected, y'all. Hope y'all following. Full adoption of a modern version of Mediterranean eating pattern can be considered one of the most effective approaches for the prevention of fatal and non-fatal cardiovascular disease complications. All right. Consuming, let me make sure I get this right. Consuming 9 or more servings of fruits and vegetables a day resulted in a 60% reduction in cardiovascular disease. That is what the research is showing when they pulled all this data together from both of the universities. And a serving, a lot of times, is a cup. A standard cup, size of your fist for an adult, might have to go about the size of a baseball if you wanted to relate it to children, because they know that their fists are a little smaller. And we also know that they thrive off of smaller portions of serving as well. So, I mean, again, this is where we want to be, y'all. So as we follow the chain, that's where we want to be. All of these things kind of working together in order to really, really increase our health. And this is, like I always tell folks, we are in a society where we want it like yesterday, and it don't happen like that. Now, how you think that 20, 30, 40, 50 years of eating a certain way, and you're just gonna change it? For our younger folks, 10, 15 years of eating a certain way, and I'm just gonna automatically jump in the healthy box. Oh, no. This is gonna take time. So, talking about time, learning what sets the Medway apart from other eating patterns is essential. It's simple, all right? We say we ain't got time. Don't worry about that. We got you. It's simple. I don't like that. Learn to use your herbs and spices. Delicious. All right. Because well, a lot of times when we go to these Indian or Nepali or these even just Middle Eastern type restaurants or even Asian restaurants, Southeast Asia, uh, I mean, they really know how to use their herbs and spices. Now, a lot of that is Americanized. Let's be real. A lot of that's Americanized. Um, but let's take a little bit of tip from some of the other nations in the world, learning how to use those herbs and spices. All right, and what goes well with what. And it's satisfying. I know when they first introduced this curriculum to us, I didn't think that it was satisfying, y'all. I was like, how you gonna tell me that this little salad right here with these grains, no meat, is gonna satisfy this hungry man right here? And I'm a little guy. I only weigh about a buck 25, 5 foot even. So, but I can still chow down. But this stuff actually filled me up, y'all. It filled me up. Using that quinoa, which is one of our most protein-rich grains and seeds. So I love quinoa. It's unique in the way it's cooked. It's unique in the way it absorbs flavor. But just simply incorporating brown rice, just starting with brown rice, can be a step. And you don't have to do all of these things one step at a time. All right, lest you get overwhelmed. So one of the first things that we have to preach, or to teach rather, is changing your protein. All right, because in America, let's keep it 100, y'all. One of the first things we grab, we can't even speak of a buffet line right now. That's definitely not COVID-19 appropriate. However, we all know when we are in that setting, even when we are at home. I mean, my grandmother growing up, if you had a meal without meat, something was wrong. So knowing that a lot of us are consumers of animal products, meat, milks and cheeses and things like that, learning how to change your protein, learning how to go for those leaner cuts of meat, learning how to prepare them in such a way where they stay lean. Because sometimes we can get a lean cut of meat, and then we actually do disservice by adding butter and all of these things to it. All right. So let's do some med flips. Transform popular foods into medway dishes. So I think this is our salmon burger or salmon patty right there. I know we have a tuna burger and a tuna patty as well. So practical advice for living the medway every day. And if you go to our website, you can see these things. And what I would love to do, I hope I can get everybody's email off of this, which you probably already, when you registered, it came to me. So I'll have that. Now I can send you some of these things if you cannot acquire them on the website, but our website is pretty user-friendly. So go MedLife hacks, quick and easy techniques to make going the medway easier. We're gonna learn some of those throughout this series. And then mindful eating in the medway. Pay attention. This is what I had to learn. Vincent, pay attention to what you are eating. You cannot just stuff things into your mouth, because what I start today will carry throughout my life. I am thankful to have learned that, and I'm still trying to incorporate eating habits that I know are good for my health. And it's just one step at a time. So write you out a plan, write you out some goals, write you out one new food that you're gonna try, write you out one new recipe that you're gonna incorporate, because we know that we can't just jump up from the seat after this webinar is over and just try to be, my friends call me Mr. Nutrition and stuff like that. And I said, no, that's not true. I'm not Mr. Nutrition. I'm just someone like you who is trying to be mindful of what they're eating and paying attention to what I'm putting in my body. It just simply goes back to what my grandfather used to tell me, son, pay attention. Pay attention. Simple phrase. But how often do we do it, especially in the go, go, go of America? So we cannot do tastings, unfortunately. We cannot do demos. Usually a part of this class, if I do get the class in real time and get a chance to have you guys at the Extension Center, and you can come to the class, we do it in the evenings, usually on a Tuesday or Thursday. I would love to do cooking. We always do that in the class. We cook together, and we actually sometimes, a lot of times, we can get one of my chef friends, Chef Najah, to come in, and he'll lead that session. And we usually we always work well together, me and Najah, and the participants always seem to enjoy it. But some of our recipes here, as we wrap up today, green beans with lemon zest is a good one. Simple, all right. Saute squash and onions, knowing that as we get into the summertime, these squash are gonna be coming off. These zucchini are gonna be coming off. Onions, wonderful aromatic, as well as garlic too. And that's one right there that is a Southern tradition. Oven roasted vegetables. Man, this has been one of our bread and butters in the class. And also, I would love to incorporate this at home a little more. Now, our kitchen is a little smaller, but now that I have a little bit more time, just planning those meals out and being able to incorporate the roasting technique, because these guys can stretch throughout the week. You can take these out, do your whole bunch of roasted vegetables, and you can put them over a salad. You can put them in a rice dish. You can do maybe a quick saute, flavor them with your herbs and spices. And in this particular recipe, it actually shows you what herbs and spices go well with which mix, that's specified. I love that recipe. So simple, but there's more to the recipe page than you see in the recipe picture. Curry quinoa salad. Now this one, I think I've only tasted once, and it was delicious. Mushroom almond burger. Now this one is a hit, so make sure you go to the recipe page. I think that we had a participant, and they said in one of our last sessions that they actually cooked this for their kids, and the kids ate it up. It was so good in one of our sessions over in High Point that they actually wanted it again in our last session. So and you can make those sliders. They don't even have to be real big burgers. And mushrooms are a good substitute for meat if you want to do a meatless meal. Pretty hearty, and they absorb flavor. If you wanted to do a broth or something like that, and just maybe kind of allow it to soak up that flavor as you sauteed or whatever, however you cooked your particular mushroom, which sauteing is beautiful. A stir fry is beautiful when you're talking these mushrooms. The fruit, what we call, it looks like it's spelled fruit chat, but we call it fruit shot. It is an Indian style dish. They do various types of shots. They incorporate fruits and vegetables, and it has that nice kick and spice to it. I like this one. Banana oatmeal pancakes. Simple, lovely. As you can see, it has like a little whole fruit compote on top and stuff. And a lot of times, if you just simply cook fruit for a little while, you can get those natural sugars to kind of draw out, and you don't even have to really use sugar, and just put it right over the pancakes. Now, us taking fruits and really savoring that natural sugar, that takes changing of the palate. So your palate, just like your mind and the habits are not going to change overnight, your palate is not going to change overnight. So it's baby steps. Maybe you might have to use a little bit of sugar, a little bit of honey to get that compote to come out nice and right. So we're pretty much at the conclusion of the midway. I'm actually going to stop our recording